I mean, if the shoe fits, Dana called you guys the biggest in the world because that's exactly what you are. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, in Sydney yesterday, UFC fighter Sean Strickland said Aussies are English white trash. He called our gun laws pathetic. He went on a racist tirade and he dared our government to ban him. Will someone please knock this guy out? And Dana called you guys because it's exactly what you are, you. Oh my God, this is just gold. Okay, so Dana White, my favorite person on earth for a multitude of reasons, and not the least of which is that I get to quote him saying things like, Australian reporters are the biggest wussies of all time in the media. Oh my God, dude. Anybody who knows, like, follows our stuff well, it's like, hey, what's Jesse's favorite moment of Dana White's entire, like, you know, career? It's simple. It's easy. Everybody knows it if they watch me consistently. It's the moment when they asked him about Bob Arum's comments about Terrence Crawford, where Bob Arum was like, oh, you know how much money I've lost promoting Terrence Crawford fights? And Dana's all, can you imagine if I said that? You guys would never let me live that down. That's not his job. He's the fighter. You're the promoter. That's your fault. That's your fault. Bob Arum is a fucking piece of shit. He said that at an ESPN press conference, okay, on national television. He's amazing, dude. He's my favorite person ever. Now, we'll get into that and about why he was calling the Australian media a bunch of, pussies. Now I can say that word because it's been a minute. Then we're going to talk about Dustin Poirier, who is calling for the Conor McGregor fight. And ship has sailed on Conor McGregor rematch. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a year ago. I don't think that's what's going on now, dude. Because Dustin Poirier is following my advice, finally, where I said, if anybody ever asks you about your beef with Conor McGregor, don't do the Dustin Poirier thing, okay? Like, anybody who, well, now this is the real OGs. This is like 2.5 years ago, probably. And after Dustin won the second fight, or, well, their third fight technically, but the second of the last two, you know, someone asked Dustin, they're like, how do you feel about Conor now? And he was like, I'm over all that, man. I've let it go. And I went crazy on my channel. And I was like, why on earth would you say that? Like, why? Why would you say, I mean, like, it's good to, like, forgive people, move on, you know, but in like fight promotion, it's sacrilege. There's no money in conflict resolution. You know, like in non-violent conflict resolution, why would you know what? We're starting with that story, actually. We're going to go ahead and start with that story. And just to rehash what my, my take was back then, I was like, you should say that he talked about your wife and you'll never let that go. And anytime you see him from now until the rest of time, it's a blood feud. I said blood feud over and over and over. I was like, it's a fucking blood feud. You fight to the death. Like, that can be the only answer, because at some point you might be able to fight him and make another $10 million. Like, a person puts a microphone in your face. Hey, Dustin, I don't really know you. I don't know anything about your life. I'm just wondering how you feel about Conor McGregor. And like, Dustin's such a good dude. He's like, I'm going to give him a really honest answer. It's like, this isn't the time for honesty. This is the time for fight promotion. And I went ham, and that video went viral. And I know 1 million people sent that to Dustin, including myself. And obviously he saw it because now he is following suit. And he is like, what's up? Let's fight to the death, dude. So here's that story. Then we'll get to Dana. So UFC star Dustin Poirier sends threat to Conor McGregor. Let's fight to the death. That's exactly what I said. Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier might not be dead yet from a hatred standpoint. And you got to ask yourself, like, why do you think he's doing this? What? Just out of nowhere? Suddenly Dustin wants to talk about Conor McGregor? Interesting. Why? I wonder. What could have changed? I wonder if they're trying to figure out who Conor is going to fight next, and Dustin is looking for his sail into the sunset fight. He wants one more. Okay, it's not going to be a title shot. So what's the only one that makes sense if you're Dustin? How about you collect another massive, massive check and a headline fight? Okay, there's that too, right? because Dustin should definitely headline his last fight, and you can't just like headline him against, you know, I guess maybe you could do Holloway versus Dustin Poirier for the BMF. That's the only way that you could headline him if it's not Conor McGregor, if it's not for the belt. But anyway, so the former UFC 2 division champion Conor McGregor has been sent a threatening ultimatum. If he were to return to the UFC, the former interim lightweight champion may be waiting for him. Poirier is seeking a retirement fight later this year, and McGregor, whose last 2 octagon outings saw him lose to the Diamond, could be worthy of a 4th fight. Oh, for sure he's worthy of a 4th. Give me that fight. Dustin Poirier's chilling threat. I'm chilled just thinking about it. I mean, if someone was like, Jesse, how do you feel when Dustin says he'll fight Conor to the death? I'm like, I'm chilled. Chilled to the bone. I'm scared. Listen, in combat sports, when people say things like death match, you have to take that really seriously. He probably means it. He's like, I'm only doing this if there are weapons involved and one of us goes home in a body bag. It's like, wow, he really means it, you guys. Can't you tell? He really means it. He wants a murder match, a death match. He doesn't care about whether, you know, if he loses and his wife and kids don't have a husband and a father. He doesn't care about that. This is that important to him. It's got to happen. He's going to kill Conor, or Conor's going to kill him. Why do you feel that passionately about it? Well, because he said my wife DM'd him, and that's a death sentence for one of us. It's like, okay. Speaking of death sentences, have you subscribed to my channel? Because if you watched 8.5 minutes of this video and haven't, it's a death match for us as well. You know, his chilling threat. That is scary. My goodness, I would hate to be in the same building as the two of them because, of course, there are going to be people who go down with the ship. You know, innocent bystanders, terribly in danger without even knowing it. 1 minute, you're having a good time at a UFC event. The next minute, you're caught up in a blood feud death match and you die along with Dustin and Conor McGregor. I mean, there are worse ways to go out than, getting caught in the middle of a death match between two of your favorite combat athletes. Fucking chilling threat. So ridiculous, dude. Now, let me tell you about the sponsor of this video, Yo Kratom, which is the source that I use on the internet because I buy by the kilogram, $60 powder kilograms, and you can get them for a little more expensive if you like it capsule. That gets to your house in 2 days, just like Amazon. You will love it. YoKratom.com. Check them out. In an interview with TalkSport, Poirier opened up on the career demise of McGregor and predicted the 36-year-old will never see an octagon appearance again. That's a good bet, dude. He's got a strong mind, but the further it gets, that after those fights keep falling apart when he announces them, I'm losing hope. And he had a great matchup. I think Michael Chandler was an incredible matchup for his return. Agree. Poirier, who is fresh off a lightweight title loss to Islam Makhachev last June, said his opinions about the Irish superstar have not changed as time since their third fight has passed. No, of course not. We will fight to the death if I see him. I don't respect him as a man. Let's go. Dustin Poirier. That's how you give a fucking promo. Death match. Blood feud. It's never over. Yeah, right, dude. If Poirier and Conor ever ended up in the same place, okay, even if Poirier's wife is there, they're like, after the careers are over, obviously. They're going to fucking have a drink and they're going to talk and they're going to laugh, dude. Conor can make anybody like him if he's like, being the good version of himself. Poirier does not respect athletic accomplishments and does not respect McGregor's athletic accomplishments and what he has been able to do within the sport. Does respect. I was going to say, I'm like, that's silly. Poirier does respect McGregor's athletic accomplishment and what he's been able to do within the sport, but outside of it, Poirier again made his feelings abundantly clear. Nah. Poirier simply said, about what? What? Nah. Anyway, nevertheless, it's clear neither man will ever see eye to eye, and in MMA, that's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles when remembering prominent rivalries. McGregor hasn't won a fight since January of 2020 against Donald Cerrone, and he hasn't won a title fight since November of 2016. That's seems like yesterday. I mean, 8.5 years ago. I think it's time I think it's time. McGregor's last title fight nearly 7 years ago was a sour downfall, losing to Khabib Nurmagomedov in the highest selling pay-per-view in UFC history. And that was all soured by that absolute catastrophe after the event when Khabib went over the wall and he attacked Dylan Dennis, and it turned into a melee where they almost kicked Islam Makhachev out of the UFC. That's how long ago that was, dude. That Islam Makhachev was on the chopping block because he jumped in that fight, Try to fucking put that in perspective. Hey, lucky they didn't fight. Hey, lucky they didn't hold up that end of the threat. He's out of here and he's not coming back. It's he's going to be pretty good. I don't care. It's no. Khabib is going to fucking retire in 2 years, okay? I know that sounds crazy, but he is. And he's going to give you no warning. And your, consolation prize is going to be, kind of like Khabib Part 2, Islam, a little bit less charming, a little less clever, but just as good fighting. I think you probably want to keep him in the mix, right? That turned out to be the case. All right. Anyway, so Poirier is trying to fight Conor, and I hope that is exactly what happens. Okay, so Dana... Yes, I am very excited to do this portion of the video. All right, so Dana White slams Australian reporters as the biggest pussies of all time in media. Oh, man. I picked the right fucking crew or, sector to start off in, okay? Well, what do you think about combat sports is such a good fit for you? I'm I don't know. I laugh every time that someone calls someone else a pussy, and it seems like that happens a lot here. It's funny. Everything about it is just the best. Dana White rarely backs down from any opportunity he gets to slam the media, but some headlines in Australia this past week really got under his skin. Well, he spent the majority of the days leading up to UFC 312 praising the land down under for welcoming the promotion back to Sydney. White couldn't ignore a couple of stories that grabbed his attention for all the wrong reasons. The first was the cover of the Daily Telegraph Sport, which featured an image of Sean Strickland and some of his inflammatory statements, along with a caption that read, "Will someone please knock this guy out?" Oh my God. Look at this. In Sydney, UFC fighters said, "Aussies are English white trash, called our gun laws pathetic, went on a racist tirade, and dared our government to ban him. Will someone please knock this guy out?" Okay, Dana's right. You guys are the biggest pussies in the entire world's media. Oh my, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love Dana, man. The second was an opinion piece in the Sydney Morning Herald addressing White's appearance on a podcast where he sat alongside New South Wales Premier Chris Minns with a quote that said, "Watching them together actually made me feel sick. Ugh. Listen, for a place that's so..." Oh, sorry. That's Dana now. "Hey, listen, for a place that's so tough, everything on land and water can kill you. You have the biggest pussies I've ever seen in media in my life," White said during a UFC 312 post-fight press conference. "I saw a story where a guy was like, I saw Dana do a podcast with the Premier and it physically made me sick. Holy shit. You guys have the biggest of all time in the media, just for the record." Truth be told, White wasn't angry about the article, but instead mocked the content because the writer claimed he was physically ill watching the UFC CEO converse with the Australian Premier. Right. They're pathetic. Okay. "We were actually laughing about it," White said. "We were reading the story in the back, cracking up at the guy. That guy has to be the biggest wimp on planet Earth." When it came to the newspaper with Strickland's photo and a caption asking somebody to knock him out, White didn't seem to take offense as much as he was stunned that it happened at all. He admits that Strickland can be abrasive and say crazy things, but White promised nobody from the Australian government actually got upset he was headlining the card on Saturday. "I'm a big believer in free speech. It probably seems worse when you guys come here because your media are such weak human beings. I thought we had weak media. You guys win hands down." As much as White seemed to love his latest trip to Australia, it's safe to assume he's probably not picking up a lot of reading material for his flight back to the United States. "Even your people know your media are weak," White said to an assembled reporters press conference. "They even know. They know it. We know it. We all know it. I didn't know it. Now I know." Oh my God, I love that guy.